passionate about it. I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed interacting with people. I enjoyed addressing the masses. But please do not be mistaken that I was born like that. No, I was an extremely shy kid back in my school. In fact, when I joined law school, I was double the shy of what I was when I joined when I was in school. So yes, a transformation happened. I went from being highly introvert to a person who could speak constantly with people, to someone who wouldn't mind breaking the ice, to someone who can just walk up to a person and speak. And that transformation, since it was a personal experience for me, it was an immense learning experience as well. So what I learned from that transformation is what I am here today to share. I see each one of you might relate to this. There are so many opportunities when we try to speak in a class. You know, when a teacher asks a question and we know the answer, but we do not speak. We have all the knowledge inside our head, but it fails to come and be transformed into a voice. Any knowledge, I believe, which cannot be delivered is of no use. Say deliverance can be in the manner of speaking, deliverance can be in the manner of writing exams. So the entire concept of exams is you are able to deliver the knowledge you have. So now life cannot solely run on exams, that you have to speak to that pretty girl over the counter. You can just write an exam and speak with her. That cannot happen, right? You have to be vocal. So you have to speak out what's there in your head. You have to interact with people. Now, interacting with people is something which involves a lot of factors. Your confidence, your posture, your etiquette, your attire, and your entire personality plays a major role while you're interacting with people. Now, moving on, if I have to share a story with you first, Mark Twain once said that there are two kinds of speakers. One who are nervous and the other who are liars. Just give it a moment to sink in, because by that logic, it would mean every person who speaks is nervous. Every person is nervous. So that is completely all right, right? So let's just see what we believe or what public speaking essentially means. Public speaking is anything wherein you are communicating by words, wherein you are communicating by means of a language. It can be Hindi, it can be English, but you are addressing to the public at large. You are addressing to people, right? So when you try to interact with the person, you have to keep in your mind that what that other person is looking forward. See, your public speaking skill, 40% of it, 40% of the constituent for your speech to be a success is that you know your audience. You are aware that to the target people with whom you are trying to interact is there for a reason. And you have to pinpoint on that reason and address the urge or the curiosity with which they have come to listen to you. Now, when I say a reason, what I mean is that anyone interacts with the person for there has to be logic behind it, right? There has to be something which they are hoping to enrich themselves for. So as far as public speaking is concerned, you can only be as good as a speaker as long as you address the public, as long as you satisfy their urge for which they have approached a particular podium to listen to you. As long as you can do that, you would handle other things very well, right? Now, when I say other things, is that your confidence. What is confidence? What exactly is the role of confidence when it comes to public speaking? Imagine you standing on a podium in a class. You have to deliver a lecture. You have to give a presentation in your school. You address a small crowd of say 60 to 70 people. Now, you know your stuff, you know your content, you speak, you have you crammed it up, you learned it brilliantly well. You have read multiple research articles on the same, and you know every aspect of that particular content. But now is the time to deliver. So first of all, you need to have a logical flow of how you want to deliver. Now, in that flow, if you are hesitating, if you have hesitation, that is something which shows that there's a lack of confidence. Now, lack of confidence are basically of three kinds, or it's not of three kinds, it's projected to the audience in three ways. See, the entire concept of public speaking, you have to keep in your mind that there are two things. One, how you are carrying yourself, and two, how you're being projected to your audience, right? So you have to balance all the factors based on these two grounds. Now, how you carry yourself, you can very easily control, and how you're projected to the audience is something you need to work on, right? It is something which, for example, if I take a stand-up comedian, if people don't laugh on the stand-up comedian, it would be a huge embarrassment for him. But does that mean he should start working towards it? No, right? So if for a while or for a moment the thought comes to your head that, if I speak, people would laugh. If I speak, it would be wrong. If I speak, it would sound stupid. Let it be. Because you have to start from somewhere, right? If you don't start, you will forever, for your entire life, you would be like that. And then you probably would be earned a title of being introvert. You would be happy, you would have made peace with that fact, but you would have missed on an opportunity to be larger than what you are. So based on that, hesitation is one. Now, hesitation, repetition, and deviation. These are three aspects which project to the people how your confidence is lacking from the support or from the public speaking which you are doing. Now, deviation is you try to talk about a certain topic, but you end up deviating and you explore every other topic but the topic you wanted to deliver on. Repetition is you are repeating your statements again and again, and you have essentially lost the charm or the hold of the public you were trying to address. And hesitation is when you are not sure about what you're speaking, despite the fact that you are completely aware of the content which you want to deliver, but you cannot because you have that lack of confidence. Now, how to address these problems? These are problems, I admit, and I would want each of you to get or to acquire that talent and that skill to address these problems. Imagine walking up to a random stranger and asking him something. You can do that, right? It's not that difficult. You have asked directions from strangers multiple times. All of you must have done that. You would have spoken to a college senior you would have never spoken to, but you had certain notes or asked. So one-to-one interaction is something which you can easily overcome. But when I ask you to address an audience of 50 strangers, you would think thrice. Okay, 50 strangers. Who all will be there? What will they be thinking about me? What perception do they have about me? What if I speak and it's wrong? What if one of them is an expert in that particular area and he points out my policy? That's all right. Everyone has the right to be wrong, even they are people, right? So that should not take away your confidence. That should not, for a bit, ask you to question your talent or to question your hold on the subject matter. That should never be the case. But still, nervousness is something which is very patent in every human being, and we have two ways. Either we admit that we are nervous and stop pursuing that particular area, or while admitting that we are nervous, we figure out ways on how to overcome that nervousness and excel in that area. So the choice is always up to us. It's no one else who gets to decide. So how to overcome that nervousness? See, public speaking is something back in school, we have multiple avenues to overcome this fear. We have multiple opportunities to overcome this fear. But we need to understand how to acquire that skill set wherein we would be using these opportunities to overcome this nervousness or to overcome this fear. Now, this is, if you see, Mark Twain, as I said, has very clearly stated that you have to be nervous if you want to be a public speaker, but that does not mean you should not be a public speaker, right? There are only two choices. You can either speak and influence, or you can simply choose or opt out of it. When we talk about nervousness while public speaking, what we essentially mean is that you have to address your inner fears. Nervousness is nothing but your inner fears. As long as you address that, you would come out victorious. And what I mean when I say inner fears are basically of three kinds: self-doubt, right? Lack of confidence, and fear to be laughed at. Now, if we see these three things, let's explore each of these a little bit in detail. Self-doubt is when you believe that you have not prepared properly. You believe that your hold on the content or on the topic you're talking about is not sufficient, and that that creeps in a certain quotient of self-doubt. You start doubting yourself that probably, I have not acquired enough knowledge to address this particular fact. You start thinking that probably I have missed out on reading that one article which would have given me sufficient hold on the topic. Or you start thinking that, as I said, that the audience is an expert and they would know better, or they would know more than what I do on the topic. So this is self-doubt. You start doubting yourself. You start doubting the content on which you have to speak. Now, the basic tool to handle this self-doubt is practice. What I mean when I say practice is, if you have, for example, I'm sure all of you must have written an essay on my favorite person or my favorite animal back in your class, standard first or second. Now, go back to those days. Imagine you were just given a task to write on my favorite animal, or write on 5 lines on, say, cow, or say my favorite pet. Now, if I ask you to read those lines before the class, a class comprising of 40 students, how difficult would that be? I'm sure comparatively a lot less, because they are just 5 statements. 5 statements which you yourself wrote. 5 statements which you would read 100 times before you are asked to speak in front of the class, right? And you would also have the opportunity to have that paper in front of you wherein you wrote those 5 statements. Now compare that, you in standard second reading 5 lines on my favorite pet, to you in college participating in a parliamentary debate over a topic. And on top of it, you are replying to the arguments made by the other side, or you are in court, again, replying to the arguments made by the other side. All the comforting factors which were there back in those days have vanished. You have no chance of reading them 100 times. What you need to address on. You have no knowledge on what arguments have to be thrown by the other side, for which you would have to have a ready-made counter. And obviously you have zero time, or absolutely no time to practice. Now, this is the change in scenario. So now, from class standard second or first till this college third, fourth year of initial first years, or say even in profession when you're trying to argue or trying to debate, what's changed? How you can still bridge that gap and be in that comforting position. Again, taking back to the first word, practice. If you have to deliver a lecture on any one topic, you have to keep in mind that your flow should be streamlined. Your delivery should be in a manner that other people can grasp that particular subject. See, now, if I take my example, I am nervous as hell. I am addressing a gathering of more than 300 people, but that's not that it's the first time I have done that. Despite I have done more than 50, 60 such conferences, but despite of that, I am nervous. Despite of that, I am thinking that, what people are thinking, are they doubting me? Are they questioning me? But is that stopping me? No. You have to overcome that fear. You have to think that if I do not take this step, I would be probably forever an introvert. You don't want that kind of title for yourself. You want to be a confident, an extrovert, achiever, a go-getter, right? And a go-getter should know how to present ideas. A go-getter should know how to voice his concern. A go-getter should know how to make people listen to him. Imagine, I'm sure all of you, at least I have been in this scenario, and I'm sure most of you would have also faced such similar circumstances. Imagine a group of friends talking, right? Five, four friends of your talking, and you join them. Now, they are discussing something among themselves. You try to pitch in, you try to speak something, to participate in that conversation, but you are ignored. Then you obviously, no one stops at the first attempt. We all have that in us. The second attempt, we try to be a little louder. We again repeat what we said before in an attempt to participate in that conversation. And again, no one listens to us. They are busy with their own talk. So third attempt, most of us, they finally give up before the third attempt, and they do not speak because one, they do not want to be embarrassed. Two, they think that, ab ho gaya hai, now obviously they are not listening to me. I am not going to make an attempt. It has happened with a lot of you, I'm sure. Now, how to deal with that? So if you part of this slide, this particular slide is how to figure out how to be a part of a conversation. And think about it. I'm sure you would not want to admit it. Most of us don't. But if you think about it, there have been instances, there have been multiple instances wherein you have faced such similar issues, wherein you have thought, or probably see that 5-minute conversation wherein you attempted to be a part of it and you failed is something which would make a dent to your self-confidence. Take that in writing with me. You might just brush it off. You might think, okay, it's not such a big deal, but it will make a dent. It will make a dent on your self-confidence. And if the same group is again there, next time you would either not approach it, or you would probably be satisfied by just being a furniture part of that group. Now, how to address this particular concern, how to, override it, how to overcome this problem. One, you should be really, really well informed. When I say well informed, what I mean is you should have read about things. You should be aware about your surroundings. You should know what's happening there. You should know what's happening around you. The reason is that if you are well aware, you will always have something to contribute. See, your friends can be as cool, can be way more cooler than you. Your friends can be way more stars or whatever, but every human being on this earth is curious. Every person is willing to listen if something new is added to his or her knowledge. Every person is all ears open for something informative. So if you have that kind of information with you, you have crossed the first step of successfully participating in a conversation. The second step is you have to voice it. So you have something substantive to contribute. The moment you raise it, you have to frame it in such a manner that it looks inquisitive. It looks that the other person should wait for you to finish. There comes in the entire concept of voice modulation. Now, you might think that public speaking, what voice modulation has to do with it? And you're probably right. If you have to address a gathering, you can just do it in one monologue. You can just maintain one pace into it. But will that help? Will that be able to hold the audience's interest? I doubt. See, audience is a very egocentric part, right? And when I say egocentric, what I mean is that they are only concerned about themselves. They're not concerned about you. Audience, remember this, each time you are addressing a gathering, each time you are addressing to the masses, the people sitting there, be it 10, be it 100, be it 1,000, they are only concerned about themselves. They're not concerned about you. They're not concerned about your thinking. They're not concerned what you aim to achieve. So therefore, you have to modulate or modify your structure in a manner that it is accepted by those audience, right? So there comes the second part. So you have the content. Now you have to frame it in such a manner that your group of 5 friends give their ears to you and your statement is heard. How you do that? You would be more of a questioning statement. You would make a questioning statement to which they would then look forward to an answer, right? For example, if there's a discussion, let's take an example of Big Boss. I'm sure all of you must, okay, most of you must be watching Big Boss, and you would have seen that there are scenarios wherein, a group is there and they're trying to, one person is a loner, no one is talking to that person, and such things happen. Or say in the Saturday night show when Salman Khan comes and he doesn't ask one particular person any question, and that person starts feeling as left out. So if you see that scenario and if you try to relate it to your real life, it happens in real life as well, right? Isn't it a depiction of what happens in real life? You have to participate in a conversation. You have to be informative. You have to strike inquisitive chord of the gathering, and then you have to address that inquisition once it takes birth. This is the 3 steps. You have to possess the knowledge. You have to strike that inquisitive chord, and then once they're inquisitive, you have to satiate their inquisition. Follow these 3 steps, and you would be very competent and very equipped with the tools of breaking ice and entering into that group conversation. See, always remember, if you can speak, you can influence. If you can influence, you can lead. And again, there are two types of people in the world, leaders and followers. You get to decide which one you would want to be, right? So always remember, take example of the Indian Parliament. Even laws, even the countries are not governed without public speaking. I mean, you cannot tell me one area wherein public speaking is not required, be it a job. If you want a promotion, you have to speak to your boss about it. If you want to do a presentation, again, you have to speak to the committee or to the team to whom you're addressing that presentation. So any sphere of life, I cannot name one scenario wherein public speaking will not be required. It will be, it always has been, and it always, it's very much there. So it's either you can accept it and learn the tricks and skills to overcome and to be a better presenter, or you can probably let it go. ठीक है, देखेंगे जब आएगा तब देखेंगे. Keep that attitude. It's completely up to you. So moving on, what do you need to know when you have to address audience, when you have to deliver a speech? Important things to remember. So this is quite interesting. See, now, in around 1995, a survey was done in UK, and the study was conducted with respect to the stage fears of musicians. It was found that in fact, more than half of them could not be a better musician. Reason being, because they had stage fright. They had issues with singing before gathering. They had that shortcomings with them. They had that lack of confidence, I must say, to that extent. Now, why had the lack of confidence was there? It was for 2 reasons. One, they were scared that they would get a negative feedback. 2, they did not have that confidence in them to think that when I was singing, people would enjoy. When I would try to address a gathering, when I would try to be melodious, people would actually relate with me. They failed to do that. See, Now that brings me to another point, which I think is very relevant once you are addressing a gathering. You have to be very sure about your audience. You have to be very particular about how your audience is structured and they would how they would respond to when you would try to address them. See, as I there on the screen also, people hear what they want to hear and disregard the rest. So even if right now I'm trying to address a certain amount of people, I should be aware that they will only listen to what they want to listen and disregard the rest. So as long as these people are interested to be a better orator, as long as they're interested to be a better public speaker, and they are here to learn, they would listen. Everything else they will easily disregard. So don't for a while, don't for a moment think that if you speak something, people would disregard. They will, even if you haven't even given them a choice to disregard, right? So even if you speak, they will disregard, irrespective of howsoever good, brilliant orator speaker you are. But you have to make a gesture to at least convey to them something which they don't know, something which they need to learn, something which they can enrich themselves. Because the audience is selfish. Audience only cares about itself. Audience only cares what it can gain from your speaking. They are not concerned what you stand to gain. They are not concerned what day you had. They're not concerned what you are. They're only concerned what they can gain by listening to you. If they are investing that kind of time in you, they are expecting to gain something. They're expecting to enrich themselves by a skill or two by listening to you. And you have to, if you want to be a successful orator, you have to give it to them. There is no way about it. You have to give it to them. So as is there, every speech contains two messages. One from the speaker and one received by the listener. I'm sure a lot of you must have seen those experiments wherein people are made to stand in a queue with their backs towards each other, and then they give them a certain sign. And by the time that sign reaches to the last person, it's a completely different sign. So that is something, how the perceptions are received. For example, right now I'm trying to deliver something here, but how will it be taken completely depend on the listener. With respect to speech, Winston Churchill said a very interesting thing. He had quite a good humor, I must say, because he said, a good speech is like a woman's skirt. It should be long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to strike curiosity. Just give it a moment and just let's sink in that what is he trying to essentially say when he says this, that cover the subject but strike curiosity. See, if you are trying to deliver home a point, if you are trying to give a lecture on a certain aspect, if you're trying to address a certain topic to an audience, so that topic has its scope. Your first objective is, so that is the subject. You have to make sure that that subject is covered. The other thing is, your presentation should be such that the people listening to you are curious about knowing more. So it should be long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to strike curiosity. Now, I can name 10 skills or say 10 even if absorbed while doing a public speaking activity, you would notice the difference evidently. You would very well notice the change, or you would very well notice the improvement in your public speaking delivery. But before that, we need to address certain hesitations or certain hindrances which are very well imbibed in us. See, public speaking is not right. It's not writing an exam. While writing an exam, it's just you, your pen, your paper, your knowledge. That's it, right? You are in your play no one is bothering you, it's utter silence, you can think, you can write. But if I ask you to address that same fact or that same content which you wrote in the exam sheet to a gathering of 50 people, you will not be able to do that. Reason being, while speaking, you have a lot of self-doubt. While public speaking, your personality is 50% and your content is only 50%. So when I say your personality is 50%, you have to understand that you have to address the inner fear. See, I'll give you, I'm sure you must have heard the story. So there was this elephant who used to be tied up, day in, day out in his cage. And there was very small, thin rope by which he would be tied up. One day that owner of the elephant tied the elephant with a plastic chair, and the elephant was still there. Despite he could have crushed that chair with just a swing of his trunk, he was still there. He had accepted that small thin rope is enough to hold him. So if you give a second to the story, just let it absorb and ponder that what is holding you? What exactly is stopping you from taking that mic and addressing a gathering? What stops you when a teacher asks a question in class and you do not want to answer it despite knowing it? What stops you when there's a pretty girl standing at the bar counter and you are too nervous to approach her? What stops you when you are participating in a conference, say a Model UN conference, and everyone else around you is speaking, but you are not? I'm sure most of you would appreciate that, so these instances have been with everyone. So let's first accept it. Everyone has gone through these times. And it should be our endeavor. It should be each one of us endeavor to overcome that, to go beyond it. When I say to go beyond it, what I mean is, what stops you is your inner fears. What stops you is your inherent lack of self-confidence. What stops you is your personality. You think that you will be wrong. You think that you would make a mistake. You think that you would sound stupid. But just come to think about it. Let's just do it once, For once, if I allow you to speak before 100 people, what would you incur? What would you show? Okay, imagine, how often do you see a terrible public presentation, a terribly, wrong gone public speaking, a very big mistake when it comes to public speaking? It's not that often, because people who even are nervous, who get weak in the knees, do try to cover up. Because at the end of it, the people who are listening also humans, right? You were trying to deliver home a point, they would take it or they would disregard it. But as long as your delivery is intact, you have done a fine job. So when I say that lack of self-confidence is that thin rope which is stopping you, I mean it. Now, I'll just run through the three avenues of public speaking. The reason being, by running those three avenues, I'll try to demonstrate how you can, see, I have been there, so I can relate to that you might think that, he's saying that lack of self-confidence, lack of self-confidence. It takes some time, it takes a lot of guts, a lot of effort. I completely relate, I completely understand that. I completely appreciate that line of thinking. I was there. It took me years to get rid of that. It took me multiple conferences to overcome my fear. But I developed a strategy. I developed a course of action because it worked for me. So I believe it will very well work for a lot of people like me, a lot of students who are an average student like me, who would want to be a lot more, but have certain hindrances, have certain inherent lack of confidence, lack of self-belief, lack of that charming personality, and etc. etc. So I'm sure all of you must be aware of Model United Nations, Parliamentary Debate, and Moot Court competition. Now, see, I have taken these names in a particular order, right? And these three things in the same order would help you achieve a complete immunity from lack of self-confidence. They would give you the skill set that for a moment you will not think that you are lacking confidence. You will, in fact, if you go by these three set of public speaking avenues in the manner, you would eventually end up being the most confident person who knows when to speak, what to speak, and when to stop. Starting from Model United Nations. Now, see, the essence why I have listed these three avenues in this order is in a Model UN conference, you have to speak for 60 seconds. In a parliamentary debate, you have to speak for 7 minutes. And in a moot court competition, you have to speak for half an hour. Just think about it. 60 seconds, 7 minutes, and half an hour. The difficulty level is increasing with the. So time is proportional to your lack of confidence. Time increases, lack of confidence. Right now, out of hundreds of people listening to me, if I ask any one of you to talk about a particular subject, about a particular thing, about a particular commodity for 60 seconds, you would be more than comfortable to talk about it, right? Obviously, like when I say that you would be more than comfortable, I'm assuming you are in a setup wherein you have the requisite audience. But if I ask you to talk about that same commodity, same topic, same issue for 7 minutes, you would say that boss, ab to padna padega. You know, I can talk so much for 60 seconds on that topic, but if you ask me to speak on for 7 minutes, I'll have to read about it, right? Now, if I ask you to talk about it, or rather to defend it for 30 minutes straight, imagine the kind of preparation that will go through. Now, the mantra is that you approach these avenues not with the intent to excel. See, I do not expect any of you, I'm sure there must be super brilliant people who can, but I am addressing average people. I'm an average person. I'm addressing an average mind, I would say. It is not expected of you to excel. It is not expected of you to win best delegate the first Model UN conference you are attending. It is not expected of you to win the first parliamentary debate you are attending. It is not expected of you to be the best speaker in the first moot you are attending. Your objective of participating in these conferences is different. Your objective is to get rid of that chain, to get rid of that thin, small rope which is holding your confidence. And you, despite knowing that you have it in you to just kick it off and be as confident as you want to be, you could not, because you have assumed that rope to be a fixed, unbreakable chain. And with that belief, with that self-inflicted notion, you are failing. You are failing to address a gathering. You are failing to speak to the masses. You are failing to speak to a group of people. You are failing to basically a good orator. So these three steps. Now your objective is to break the chain. How it will happen? You participate in an MUN conference. While you are there, You know your liability or your answerability is only for 60 seconds. You would be much comfortable to be in that setup, right? I'm talking to all the first timers. I'm talking to all the people who are yet to start on the journey of being a good public speaker. I'm sure most of you would have all be, or would have already been at a certain stage or at a certain position. But I'm talking to the people who are starting the journey. I'm addressing those who want to get rid of that nervousness, who want to be more confident. So participate in a conference. You know your answerability is only 60 seconds. You can prepare as much as you want and you can even read it out. But the very fact, the very experience of reading it out to 100 people would give you a huge amount of confidence, right? So this is the first step. Once you have participated in such conferences and you have overcome the nervousness to a good extent that now you know, you can tell yourself that, okay, Bob, I can speak for 60 seconds. And last conference, I think I did a good job. People even applauded for me. So I think I can make sense also while talking. And so I think I should take the next step. The next step will be parliamentary debate, because there you are required to speak for 7 minutes. Now it's a jump from 60 seconds, 1 minute to 7 minutes. But remember, in the first phase, you have already shred off your nervousness to a good extent. You have already shred off a good amount of your hesitation, your self-doubt. And now you are more equipped with confidence and with the content. For a parliamentary debate, you have to have the content to argue, a content to defend the notions on which you are debating. So this is the second step. The third step is mood. Now, for those who are law students, they would be able to relate when I say what moot court competitions are. For those who are not law students, I'll just explain it for them. They are basically a simulation of a courtroom in law school, and one party defends a case, one party prosecutes a case. So that
I think there is some technical issue at my end. Yes, join back. Mahip, can you hear me? Like, okay, guys. So I think there is some technical issue. We'll just connect to Mahip. Just give us a minute to check on this. Okay, so give us a minute. Mahip is joining back. I think there is some internet issues since we all are working from home. Or even the internet service providers are tired because everyone is using internet. Meanwhile, I'll see for some questions. Supriya is asking, can moot courts be attended by non-lawyer students? Supriya, yes. If you have very good friends who are law students, and they can actually invite you to their law schools, yeah, you can attend it for your own experience. Okay, so Dhruv has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions. Okay, nice. So Dhruv, I think Mahit will, answer your questions. You have a lot of questions. Let me take the ones which I can answer. Okay. Do we get certificates for this session? No. So there is no certificate for this session. Why? Because this is for your own learning and growth. You know, you need to learn more about public speaking rather than just getting a certificate. How do I choose a new senior
I can't get over this.
Sorry, Mahip, are you saying something? A forum, I think the problem you're mentioning here, that how do I choose a mood team? I have faced this issue. Okay, yes, my seniors did not dominate, but they had their own teams. Juniors again were not, like really aware. So why not approach your own batchmates, right? You guys can form a team, and yeah, you can participate in mood courts. Okay. So Harshita, there are a lot of mood courts, even Ankur. So there are, sorry, MUNs. There are a lot of MUNs which are conducted all over India. I don't know what is the format as of now, since everything has moved online. But yeah, there are a lot of MUNs. Details you can find on Logtopus, you can find on Noticeboard, you can find on various other platforms. So yeah, that's about MUNs. Komal, there is no certificate. Personality development courses, I don't know about that. Mahit will be able to answer it. Okay. So someone asked about me. Shrestha. So Shrestha, answering your question, see, if I have done 15 moods, okay, in some mood I might have been a winner. In some mood I might have just participated. In some mood I would have been a researcher. So, you know, don't run behind numbers when you are actually asking this question that can I put the mood experiences in the CV? Select the cream. So what I mean by selecting the cream is that the mood courts where you have performed really well, there are certain mood courts and uh, certain experiences which I think are closer to our hearts. And you've had very good experiences which you can share with the recruiter. Put those mood court experiences. Okay. Can we have public speaking courses in the future also? Shaman, I would take it as a feedback. You know, we'll discuss about it. Mahip, are you there? Are you able to join? Okay, guys, just give me a moment. Okay, someone is asking how do I participate in moods debates during COVID? So, guys, I think since everything has moved online, a lot of debates and mood board competitions are happening online. So, keep checking out various websites for updates. At Locktopus, we post a lot of these opportunities. So, yeah, a lot of mood boards and debates are happening online. So, you can check it out and then you can participate. Yes, Mike, please go ahead.
Hi. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So let me just share the screen as well. We have discussed how the three-step process of getting rid of your anxieties, of getting rid of your nervousness, MUN, parliamentary debates, and moot courts. As I said, that
Mike,
for lawyers,
Mike, your screen is not visible. Have you started sharing it?
yeah, I've started sharing the.
I
Just
think there is some
again.
internet issues. So your screen is not visible.
Is it visible?
No. I think you can, turn off your video. It will help you with the internet bandwidth.
That, yeah. Is it visible now, the screen?
It's just loading. So we'll wait for a minute. Uh, I, I mean, it says that you've started sharing your screen, but it's not visible.
Super slow if that's okay.
Is there an issue with your internet connection? I think there is
No,
an
it shows complete. It's showing all the bars. Just wondering.
So I think guys, can anyone see my screen? Can you just post yes or no in the chat box? So we'll just resolve the issue accordingly. No. So I think my it's not visible to our viewers as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
move
it
it to
says
a better.
yeah, it still says the screen is loading. Like okay guys, so till till Mahib joins, let me just see some more questions. So yeah, can you guys conduct a webinar on writing a cover letter? This is by anonymous attendee. Guys, there was a session by Miss Ashna Jain. It is on our YouTube channel. You can have a look. We've already conducted a session. We will be conducting more sessions. Mike, can you unmute yourself and you can just speak about it? I think speak about your
Yeah, am
present.
I? Is the screen visible?
No. Can you start sharing your screen? Like I cannot see it as of. Okay, guys, I think there is a network issue. So I'll take some questions. How to approach for a virtual moot court competition for a first timer? Uh, Anonymous attendee. Okay, so whoever asked this question, I think the best approach would be that, since you're a first timer, see what exactly the moot is about, like whether it's a competition law moot, whether it's a space law moot. You need to check which subject is the moot dealing with. uh, that's there. You have your team, you research, you will know about the problem, right? The moot court problem. So research well, try to draft your memo accordingly. And yeah, then I think the process is pretty simple if you're asking about the process, right? So you submit your memo, and yeah, you'll be given an opportunity to turn up for the rounds, the oral rounds. So yeah, there are a lot of online moot courts happening. There was this recent FBI moot which happened online. Ajay, I'm trying that. Thank you for the suggestion. I'm trying that. But Maip is unable to join. So even if I share the PPT, his his internet connection is a bit shaky as of now. And we need to understand this. We are in a mid of a crisis situation where everyone is working from home and using internet. So sometimes there are bandwidth issues. What to do when you have already passed college and can't do model UN and all? Okay. Can you just rephrase your question or elaborate? Like, what do you want to know exactly? Mahip, can I share your PPT and you can just speak? Can you? Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, yes, Mahip. So what I'll do
Yes,
is
I
I'll
think you.
I'll share your PPT and then you can just speak about it. Let me know
Sure.
which.
Yeah, that will be better.
Yeah.
Because it's showing some error from my side in sharing.
Okay, no problem. So I'll share your PPT. Just give me a minute. I'll share.
And guys, I would highly encourage you all to speak and ask questions, because public speaking can only be as good as the questions posed by the audience. Now, in the corona times, the new normal, we have to restrict ourselves to screens and not actually physically relating and physically watching you people and interacting with you people. But nonetheless, despite the reservations we have to make the most of it and try to interact as much as we can. So I would highly encourage you all to ask questions so that I can address the concerns individually, and probably from a question asked by one person, others stand to gain a lot.
Okay, so Mike, I'll start. I think your audio is pretty clear. So I think it's okay if you don't start your video. I am sharing my screen, and just let me know which slide do you want me to display. So guys, a quick show of hands. Is my screen visible to you guys? Okay, cool. I think
Right.
it is. Mike, which slide do you
Yeah,
want me
this
to?
is just show the previous one. Yeah, second one. This we are done.
Okay.
Next one. No, the next one.
This one?
Next.
This?
Next. This one. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So yes, now coming on to the other. So we have discussed how to tackle nervousness. I have given you a way forward for that, right? And then we have also discussed that how to approach a group of people if you want to start conversation with them. Now, the other two aspects is knowing your content, that what you will be talking about, and practicing the same. The previous slide, honestly, I think we have changed the slide. Yeah. Yeah. So now, if we talk about the content, always remember to make a note. When I say to make a note, what I mean is that you should know what you are going to talk about, but that note should not be read out verbatim. Because if that's the case, then it's nothing good than a class teacher asking you to read a chapter, right? And I don't know anyone who would say that reading a chapter in standard second or standard third would have amounted to public speaking. Reading and speaking are two different aspects. They should be kept like that. So when we talk about reading, it is something which shows lack of inherent knowledge, because you are reading from a book, you are reading from a paper. On the contrary, public speaking requires you to speak on the spot. Public speaking requires you to have the content in your head, to formulate the content in a manner in which it will be most easily and comfortably absorbed by your audience, and to deliver the content. Now, when you have to deliver the content, it should be framed in such a manner. In fact, a lot of famous personalities have even went on to say that while you were preparing your speech, you should also write, breathe, stop, pause in your speeches. Imagine, to that extent, they have micromanaged your speech. Your speech should even consider all these things. So if to that extent it has to go, if to that extent it has to be meticulous, then we have to be aware of a few vital aspects which should be incorporated in the speech in order to make it wholesome. See, if I will tell you 5 pointers which you should remember to incorporate in your speech while you are writing down one. First of all, it should only have the main points, and you should provide the fillers impromptu. If you read it out, it is not worth it. It will not be public speaking. It will just be reading. So it's better if you just jot down the pointers on which you would want to speak. That is point number 1. Point number 2 is your opening. Your opening should always be thought-provoking. Your opening should always be inquisitive. Your opening should always be curiosity-striking, because that is required for you to gain the attention of the audience. If you start your speech with an inquisitive question, or if with a story which each one of your audience can relate to, then you are in a sense relating and connecting to each of your audience at a personal level. And always remember, it is much easier to give a public speech or to be an orator if you are connected with your audience, if you are open with your audience. So try to imagine giving a presentation to someone with whom you're completely relaxed. Giving a presentation to your mom, to your best friend, or someone with whom you're completely comfortable. Now, imagine yourself. How would you feel? Just think of the mental picture you get in your head when you think about that. That comfort level you are required to have, that comfort level you are required to carry, to wear while addressing even an audience of 1,000 people. You have to be completely open with your audience. You have to be completely comfortable in your own shoes while addressing the audience if you want to excel in public speaking. So the first thing is your intent to be open with your audience. There, the content has to be structured in a manner. So when I say started with a story, what I meant was your story should make you open with your audience. It should instantly connect you with your audience. So main point, opening with a story or with a thought-provoking question, it should be crisp. Your speech should be crisp and to the point. So this is point number 3. Point number 4 is you should have examples, real life examples and stories in between your speech so that you can tell that to the audience while giving a speech. And using those examples and stories, the audience can relate to you all, can relate to your life, can relate to the way or the art by which you are delivering a speech. And lastly, your ending. Your ending should be summarized of the entire gamut of knowledge, of learning, which you went there to provide to the audience. So 5 things, I'm repeating myself. First, your speech should only consist of the main points. Second, it should always start with a curiosity-striking question, thought-provoking question, or a good story. Third, it should be absolutely crisp and to the point. Fourth, it should have multiple real-life examples and stories in between. And fifth, it should end in a summary encapsulating every content which you delivered during the course of your speech. So now your content is ready. Now, if you see the 6 C's, which are there on the screen as well: clear, concise, concrete, coherent, complete, and correct. As long as you are addressing these 6 things, your speech will be a good speech. Now, once your content is ready, the second aspect is you have to practice. Always remember, if you fail to prepare, you should be prepared to fail. I'm repeating it again. You should listen to it carefully and read it. If you fail to prepare, be prepared to fail. Therefore, practice is absolutely essential once you have to give a public speech. You should make a presentation. You should run your presentation to yourself, to your colleagues, to your close friends, to your family. You should take their views. You should keep in mind that, what they think about the presentation could and might possibly be the reaction of the public at large. And most importantly, you should be very aware and keen to the voice tone and the voice modulation which you do while delivering a lecture. See, your voice plays a very important role in any statement you make, in anything you speak, leave alone public speaking. Anything you speak in general, your voice plays a very vital role in that. So even while delivering a lecture, where to raise the pitch and where to lower it down is very important to know. Always remember, when you want the attention of the people, lower down the pitch so that they, strike their necks out to listen. And when you have to give a very important point, when you have to deliver a very important point, raise your pitch. For example, if I have to tell you the one mantra to success in public speaking, that mantra will start with always practice and practice and practice. Now, if you had noticed, my voice went to a lower pitch when I said the mantra to that would be, and when I said the mantra, my voice raised. So similarly, while addressing a public gathering, you should lower your pitch when you want to grab the attention of the audience, and you should raise your pitch when you want to address the point, when you want to speak the point, right? So this is how voice modulation plays a role while you are giving a public speech. Now, moving on to the next slide, Anusha, if you could please come on the next slide. Body language. Now this, right. So I saw a couple of questions also in the Q&A relating to the body language, and this a very vital thing which needs to be addressed, which you should be very much aware about while giving a public speech. Always remember that your personality plays a major role while giving a public speech. Your personality plays a very vital role when you are talking to people. Your personality has a lot to contribute when you are trying to relate to connect to the masses. How you carry yourself is very important. What are you wearing is very important. Your attire is the first introduction of you, even while you haven't spoken a single word. Even before you have opened your mouth, your attire speaks volumes about what's coming. So you should be particularly aware of what you are wearing while you are going to deliver a public lecture or a public speech. Always remember, it says here also that public speaking isn't just about what you say, it's also about how you say it. And when I talk about how, the importance of body language is brought in. Now, if you remember in the last slide, we were talking about the requirement to connect with the audience, the requirement to be open with the audience. See, once you begin to feel open, once you've stored away the memory of what it feels and looks like, you are ready to practice the speech again. So if you remember the example I gave, that you have to give a speech to your mom, or you have to give a speech to your brother or to your best friend, imagine the level of comfort. Now try to bring the same comfort in while giving a lecture to an audience. This time, focusing on the audience. Think about wanting, needing to engage your listeners. Until unless your listeners are eager and your listeners are engaged with you, they will not really be listening to you. If I give you an example, imagine you are in a scenario wherein very impromptu you have to give a speech. Imagine a child wanting to have your attention, or you want to capture that child's attention. You don't strategize, do you? You simply do what is natural. I am sure a lot of you, while taking the daily commutes, or while in metros or in buses and in public places, when a small child is looking at you, you do various things to attract its attention, right? Do you strategize? Do you give a thought that, okay, I should do this, then he will get my attention? No, you don't. Similarly, while giving a public lecture, you should be at your most comfortable demeanor. You should be your most comfortable self while addressing a gathering. So intent to open with the audience and intent to connect with the audience is very important. The next intent will be, which your personality reflects and your body language carries, is how passionate you are about your topic. Now, while delivering a lecture, see, a lot of us find these college lectures boring. No wonder, no surprise there. Because even the person who's teaching them is least interested in them. That person is doing his job, right? That person is getting paid to read a few chapters to us, and that's it. That's about it. So he's not really passionate. But yes, if there are certain professors, there are certain teachers whose classes we enjoy. Why? Because he is particularly, or he or she is particularly interested about the topic or the subject he's teaching. And since he is passionate about the topic and the subject he's teaching, his body language, his demeanor, his presentation automatically reflects that passion. And that passion inculcates the curiosity in us, and we are more keen to listen to what he has to say. So always remember that your passion speaks volumes about the subject you are trying to deliver on. So your intent to be open with the audience, your intent to connect with the audience, your intent to be passionate about the topic, and lastly, your intent to listen to the audience. You should always be willing to listen. Now, unfortunately, if this would have been a physical seminar, I would have asked questions to almost 20, 30 of you by now. But given the limitations we have in the new normal, given the limitations we have of a webinar, we cannot do that. So therefore, we have certain restrictions, but that doesn't mean we stop spreading the knowledge we have. That doesn't mean we should stop the practice which we have been doing. So that intent to listen is the fourth intent. Now, what things you should keep in mind while on being on the podium, right? While standing before 1,000 people. Your posture and your body movement. See, never keep your hands in your pocket. That's a big no while you are giving a public speech. It's a big no because it shows that you are lacking confidence. Your hand movement should be absolutely free. In fact, I would request you to bring your hands to your assistance while giving a public speech. You see all these big politicians and big orators, they use their hands extensively while doing a public speech for a reason, because that shows how passionate you are. That shows how absorbed you are in the lecture you're trying to deliver. Then your facial movements and your eye contact. Always see, I can understand there are a few people who feel that when they look in the eyes of the audience, their nervousness is triggered. I can completely relate to that. I have been there myself once, so I can completely understand that. So in that case, you do not need to look in the eyes. You can just look at the wall opposite to the hall wherein you are giving the speech, right? Or you can cursory glance to all the audience. You can just keep your eyes rolling throughout the audience without stopping on any one particular individual. Or you can have your best friend sit in the audience and just keep looking at him while delivering the lecture. So that way you will be taking care of that anxiety trigger or that nervousness trigger when your eyes are locked into the eyes of a stranger while giving a public speech. See, out of the people attending this webinar, I'm sure a lot of you would have already experienced this, and you would relate to what I'm saying, that, while giving a lecture, while giving a speech, while making a statement in public, if your eyes by mistake are locked into the eyes of a stranger or of a colleague or of a classmate, you do tend to forget what you were about to say, right? So to avoid that, you can follow the three things which I told you. And lastly, let your own personality step out and shine. It is required. Why? Because until unless you are at your comfortable self, until unless you and your personality are at comfort with each other and to the situation and scenarios, you would not be making the best of the opportunity. You would be very self-conscious. And the more self-conscious you are, the more mistakes, the more nervousness, the more hesitations will come in. So let yourself be, let your personality be, let your personality shine. Or let's move on to the next slide. The final takeaways. Now, what this again, now if what I preached before, I am practicing it now, that your speech should always end with what topics you discussed. They should summarize it. So if you see the first point, it talks about the content making, that better preparation and understanding of the topic eliminates the chances of making a mistake or getting off track during a public speaking activity. Now, to elaborate a little bit, if you remember, I told you that while making the note on public speech, which you are about to deliver, you should always jot down the main points. See, as long as you have the main points, you will not deviate from them. You would only talk about those main points. So that is the concept, or that is the purpose of not going off track during a public speaking activity. Secondly, a moment of silence is nothing to be afraid of. Now, this is tackling the fear or tackling the lack of confidence or nervousness. Remember that if while speaking, you pause in between, you use the word in between, it's absolutely all right. As long as it is not repetitive, as long as it is not frequent. All right. So a moment of silence is not a problem. It is considered the orator would have just taken a break to breathe. It's absolutely natural. And the audience will not even notice it, right? And even if the moment goes a little longer than the usual time, then the audience will not mind it if the speaker covers up for it. So do not think that if you stop in between, you are being judged. You are not. Thirdly, practicing complete speech several times would certainly give the speaker an edge. That cannot be denied with. That is the law. That is the harsh truth. That uh, if you practice your speech multiple times, you can obviously do a lot well. We can move on to the next slide, Anisha. Yeah. So while you are starting at it, if you see the first point, while you are starting to give a speech, you should always record your first speech and watch it. You should watch it to learn from it, to notice what all improvements you need to make, what all mistakes you made. Because see, self-criticism is the best teacher, right? So always record the first speech and watch it so that you can learn from it. Then again, as I said, better preparation helps you not to go off track. The third point is relating to the audience. I think I have emphasized a lot during the session today that you have to relate to the audience. You have to connect to them. You have to have the intent to be open with them. You have to have the intent to listen to them, right? You have to be a part of the audience if you want to be a good public speaker. So the speaker, if you are part of it, you will be able to anticipate the responses and the queries which would come in the course of the speech. Then last point in this slide is it is essential to focus on the material, not on the audience, as people are primarily paying attention to the information being presented. This is as crisp as it can get. At the end of the day, it is all about the content. It is not how you spoke. It is not how loud, how soft you were. It is the content for which the audience is there, for which the audience is listening to you. So I think we are there on the last slide now. If you could come on the last slide, Anisha. Lastly, the speakers should recognize and acknowledge their success. Now, I started off with this speech by saying that I have, spoken at more than 50, 60 such conferences, and despite being a shy kid myself. So that should show that the speaker recognized and acknowledged their success. It may not have been perfect, but it's better if the speaker are critical of themselves than the audience, right? So the reason why you should watch your own videos is because you yourself are more critical to your own speech, to your own video than the audience might be. So if you are learning from that, you would do much better. And the three mantras which I said, this Model United Nations, Parliamentary Debate, and Moot Court. This is what the last point talks about. Joining an active public speaking forum would also benefit the students. See, I told you that nervousness which is there in your head, that nervousness, that anxiety, that lack of confidence is nothing but a rope by which an elephant is tied to a plastic chair. Always remember that. That is nothing but just that small thin rope. And it is the elephant which can kick that chair and be free from that rope. Similarly, it is you who can get rid of that nervousness only if you take the first step. So get in a habit of considering yourself comfortable in an unknown environment while speaking in public. And your anxiety would automatically go away if you are comfortable in your own skin. I think with this, we have come to the end of the presentation. So yes, as it says, rise and shine. We can take questions now.
Yes, sure, Naib. So, the majority question is like, I'll just, combine it for you. So, how to basically, maintain a voice pitch whenever you are speaking? Sometimes you tend to get a little nervous. Sometimes you tend to get a little excited. So the major questions are how to maintain a voice pitch.
See, it will be a lot easier for you to maintain a voice pitch if you would have practiced. Because imagine if you have a note, if you have you have prepared your speech and you have already spoken it in front of someone, then you would have noticed that where you are going loud, where you are going softer, right? Now, I am saying this notwithstanding that it would be a lot different while you are standing in front of 1,000 people. But if you have practiced it, you would at least be aware that, okay, this point you emphasized during your rehearsal. Or say at this point, you went a little louder, or you got a little excited during your rehearsal. So when that point comes, you would automatically, your personality, your approach, your mind would automatically frame it in such a manner that, as I said, to grasp the attention, before that very point, you would go little soft, and that is low pitch. And when that point comes, you would go high pitch. So that excitement, that maintaining the voice modulation, maintaining the same pitch. Step one, practice and rehearse your speech. Step two, highlight the relevant pointers in your speech itself wherein you want to raise your pitch. Because if you are aware of those pointers, your mind would automatically modulate the voice in which you are speaking. So these two steps would help you get over that problem.
Okay. So another, a lot of our attendees have asked this question that sometimes we are well prepared, with our presentation, with the content, but when we start, speaking in front of the public, we either start overthinking, about what are the judgments they are going to make, and that also, in turn creates nervousness. So how do you tackle that?
Now, see, if I have to tell about myself, it would be, so this is what I practice personally. I think everyone sitting in front of me is stupid.
Okay.
And with that approach, I go to the podium. So that is one thing. Now, just by thinking, I have triggered those hormones in my head, which would give me the necessary confidence I require. Because see, as I said, the audience is only concerned with the content you are trying to deliver, and the audience is selfish. They only want to be enriched. So as long as you are enriching them, please do not for a moment think that you will be judged. As long as you have content to deliver, you are not going to get judged. And even if you are, never forget, it's you who's on the podium and they are among the listeners, not the other way around.
Right. So, Mike, there is a question from Nigeria. So I'll read it out for you. So there are instances where a student could be called upon to deliver an impromptu speech where there is little or no knowledge on the topic. So in that case, what do you do?
Very good question. See, again, I would go on the presumption that you have little knowledge, because I don't think it's fair to say that you have no knowledge, because I'm sure you cannot be asked to give a lecture on something you cannot have any knowledge on. It has to be remotely related to you, but related to you. Now, moving on that assumption that you have little knowledge on that thing, the best way to start off with that is you ask this question to yourself and to the audience. For example, if someone asks me to give a lecture on this digital currency. Now I have zero idea on digital currency. So how I will approach that particular topic? My opening statement would be, all right, so what is digital currency? Anyone? So I would first become a part of the audience itself, right? I would relate to the audience there and then. Now, the moment I say anyone, I expect to get at least one or two responses. So I would see, impromptu is what? Impromptu is you do with whatever you have. So do not limit yourself to your brain. You have an audience. I'm sure you must be seeing Kaun Banega Crorepati. You have audience poll, right? So you should use that. See, a stage is a stage, be it for a singer, be it for a dancer, be it for a public speaker. The moment you are put on a stage, the entire conference room is yours. The entire participation, the entire attendees of the conference room are yours, at your disposal. So you should use it. So if you have little or no knowledge, you first of all ask a question. Then if you get a response, you develop on that response. You think on the spot what other questions this response can trigger, what other things it needs to highlight. And you focus on three things. One, the introduction of that topic. Two, the relevance to the present discussion of that topic. And three, the way forward in that topic. Any discussion, any public speech should have these three things. What is it? How is it related? And where is it headed? So the introduction, the relevance, and the way forward. If you are addressing these 3 points, I don't think any topic can be out of your reach, and you would be able to give a good lecture even on that impromptu.
Right. So I think we have, covered like all the questions about nervousness and when you know the content but you become nervous, and basically everything about like public speaking. So I would share a small experience. I was never a good orator. I have not even participated in any national or international moot. But once I started, so my speaking journey started with when I was presenting papers as a part of my dissertation. And I was extremely nervous. I was a law student, and my topic was on machine learning and artificial intelligence. Right? I had no clue, but I was confident that whatever research I have done and the content which I am putting forward is something I am good at, which I know inside out. Right? So, and I was grilled very badly by a professor from IIT Kharagpur, right? But I was very confident, right? So I think confidence is the key. So my has been reiterating that the floor is yours, not of the audience. You are at the podium, and the audience is the listener, right? So I think that that is the key. Also, right now I think I have taken more than 21 sessions from past 1 year, and I'm pretty confident, right? I interact with people. I interact not only with law students but with working professionals as well. So yeah, it helps, and practice. So stand in front of the mirror and practice. That helps. That helped me. I think my would agree to. Yeah.
Practice is the key. As I said, if you fail to prepare, be prepared to fail.
Yeah, correct. Mike, thank you for the session, guys. We are extremely sorry for the technical glitch, but again, since everyone is working from home, there are bandwidth issues. Sometimes I'm logged out of important meetings, so we cannot help it, right? But yeah, we look forward to host you, for more such sessions. Thank you so much, Mahir. I've not interacted with you in college, but yeah, it was great hosting you, and we wish to host you in the future as well. So thank you, guys. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Keep safe. Do not venture out unnecessarily. Yeah. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Mahir.